again. So if you had a good night, can you give the person next to you a high five? It looks like some of you did not have a good night. Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome to this second day of the conference. And I'm delighted that today we're not too late. We're just 15 minutes late, which is quite an achievement, given yesterday's session. So today we have a very, very exciting session lined up. And before we get into the session, the panel is here. They are ready. They've promised me that we're going to learn a lot about trade. Before that, I want to make a couple of announcements. The first one is when we did the printed program, there were 2 sessions that were inadvertently left out, and I just want to take you through them so that you're clear about them. And when you make your choices in the afternoon, you're able to determine whether you want to go and attend them. So, Bevon, please, can I see the sessions? Yeah, so immediately when we finish the plenary, we are going to have breakouts room, 4 breakouts. And these 4 breakouts are just along the same tracks that we had yesterday. So the first one, which is on the, please take a note of the rooms. Take a note of the rooms. On the impact of synthetic inputs is going to be headlined by Dr. Don Huber, who, by the way, this morning was on national television together with Professor Micheka and Dr. Mokaya, and they did a very good job. I think the whole nation now knows that we are here. It's going to be in the room called Bougainville. Bougainville is up the steps. You follow the steps. It's one of the rooms up there, up next to the reception area. In Savo, we are going to have a very interesting lady. This is Miss Christine Zimmerman. She was introduced to us by Charles Wilson, and I think she has a very, very interesting presentation on vertical farming. Now, if those guys were wondering what vertical farming is, I think that's a good place to come and find out. The other session is going to be on linking organic aggregators, organic farmers and aggregators to the retail sector. This is, I think, a very, very interesting session because in here, we're actually going to have private sector. For example, we're going to have Tuskies. We're going to have who are actually building, selling organic foods in their supermarkets. And Tuskies is the biggest supermarket in Kenya today. So it's really got an influence and an impact. And they're going to talk about how they build linkages with farmers. We're going to have Caroline Bugwa, whose family runs an organic restaurant, and she's going to tell her story. And we are also going to have other activities. So the main speaker for this session is Bat Jan Otens, who's going to share experiences from Profound. Finally, we have session 8, whose main speaker will be Louise Luticold, and she is the executive director of IFOM. And this session is going to be focusing on organic guarantee systems and policy environment in East Africa. So in this session, we're going to be dealing with critical issues relating to policy, one of them being issues around organic standards and certification. I'm sure this is something that a lot of people are interested in, and we will also have some paper presenters presenting in that session. But I think one of the other interesting things presented in the session is a case study on consumer attitudes and preferences on organic foods in East Africa. So I would like, when you make a decision on which of these parallel sessions to go to, you make an informed choice. The reason why I have emphasized 7 and 8 and tried to give you more detail about them is because they are not in your program. Yeah, so breakout 5 on the impact of synthetic inputs is in Bougainville. Breakout 6 whose main speaker is Ms. Christine Zimmerman, is in Savo, okay? Breakout 7 is in Ivory. Ivory is also one of the rooms up there, yeah? So this is Savo, and that is Samburu, okay? This room here is Savo, and the one at the end is Samburu. So in Samburu, we're going to have the one on organic guarantee systems and policy environment in East Africa, whose main speaker is Louis Luticolt. Are there any questions? I really would like everybody to be comfortable with this, primarily because it has been left out of the program. If you are clear, then I can move on. Upstairs, you take the stairs, you come out of the hall, you take the steps like you're going to the reception, the main reception area. Just before the main reception area, we have 2 rooms. One is called Ivory, and one is called Bougainville. The 2 rooms are facing each other. Yeah, so you just go out. If you get lost, please go to the information desk, and they will guide you. Anybody who's not clear? Okay, thank you very much. So, breakout 5, Bougainville, breakout 6, Savo, breakout 7, Ivory, and breakout 8, Samburu. But when we just before go for the break, I will just remind you so that you can go to the right room. So, the other thing I want to announce is to remind you that today we are having the first ever fully organic gala dinner here in Kenya. It has never happened before. So we're making history. Yeah? So the dinner is going to, I would say we're going to start around 6:30. But if you can start making your way there from 6 o'clock, but 6:30, we'll sit down and get started. So try and make your way there. It is at the same place we are having lunches. The very same place we're having lunches, that is where the gala dinner is going to happen. And it is being hosted courtesy of the BioVision Africa Trust and supported by BioVision Foundation. All right? The third issue I want to remind you is that tomorrow evening, as soon as we finish here, at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., we have an opportunity to interact with university students and faculty. There is a session going to be held at University of Nairobi, okay? And in that session, our main speaker is going to be Don Huber, together with, wait a minute, Dr. Carmen. And they will be discussing, it is purely going to be discussing issues of pesticides and GMOs. And the idea we had is that we wanted to take the conference out of this beautiful building and interact with some ordinary citizens who may not have afforded to come and pay here. So we chose University of Nairobi because it's central, and we have always also invited other university students to come and other faculty to come. So if you have a moment to attend that, that would be nice. We had invited Professor Micheka as well, but he's launching his book in Rwanda exactly the same time. So we are going to miss out on him, yes. Finally, I want to just remind you that the exhibitions are continuing. Please take a moment to go around. We also have the poster presenters, and time was very tight yesterday. So I want to emphasize the timings for the poster presentations. Immediately we finish the breakout sessions in the afternoon. At 5:30, we will actually have quite some time to view the poster presentation. So between 5:30 and 6:30, when the dinner starts, I would like to request the poster presenters to be in position and for all of us to spend that time going around and talking to them and seeing what they are presenting. Aside from that, I wish you all a very productive day, and I would like to take this moment to welcome Eustace Kiare, who is the Executive Director of COAN, to come and take us through the session. Karibuni. Let's appreciate him as he comes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, thank you. Welcome to the second day of the conference, an exciting day where we are picking up from yesterday's discussions. And it was clear yesterday that our agriculture systems are broken and business as usual is not an option. We need to stop doing the same things we have been doing before and expecting different results. We need to stop digging. We need transformation, right? We need transformation. And today, this morning, we are going to talk about how we strengthen markets, the national, regional, organic markets, as a tool or to strengthen those markets to support the transformation that we all desire. And we all know that consumers have the power to influence how food is produced, how it is distributed, and how it's also, and what is to be consumed. And this morning, as I said, we are going to talk about organic trade. And without much further ado, I want to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Malik Kane, who works with UNCTAD, that's the United Nations Conference on Trade and Agriculture, as a project coordinator for the National Grain Export Country Project, to give us an overview of the organic markets in Africa and maybe share with us some insights of how we can scale it up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's applaud as Malik comes to give us the keynote address.
Good morning, everybody. Jambo, is that how we say? Okay. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and set the stage for this very exciting discussion on organic markets in Africa. I would like to thank the organizers, and in particular David Amoudavi and Sivia Michuli, for allowing me to be here today with you. I work at UNCTAD, which is the UN Conference on Trade and Development, and we are trying to build a positive relationship between trade and environment. I know that yesterday some people had not such a positive opinion on trade and markets, but I think that it's a very useful thing to consider trade and to try to make markets work for sustainable production practices. Can I have the slides? Okay. Oh, can I maybe have the pointer? So my presentation will be divided in three parts. First, I will talk about the global organic market. Then I will discuss the current situation, well, broadly on the African market. And then I will talk about a possible solution to scale up organic trade in Africa. So the global organic market. To put things in perspective, let's say that organic standard is probably the leading voluntary sustainability standard, both in terms of production area, as you can see on the screen, and in terms of number of sectors covered. Overall, voluntary sustainability standards are becoming more and more important as consumers are increasingly looking for sustainable products. But these standards, they have a complex relationship with each other, and sometimes they can even be competing, and this can be confusing for consumers. I put an example, the example of the cocoa sector, which is the most certified sector in terms of production area, and you can see that organic is not the first sector. And this multiplicity of standards also can weaken the level of sustainability of the production. I'm not pointing fingers at any standard, but some might be a bit less compatible with agroecology. There is also some complementarity among standards, and we recently had a discussion with a fair trade representative who told us that about 50% of the agricultural products certified with fair trade were also organic. And it's a nice complementarity because it helps guaranteeing that producers get a fair income. So that's a nice case. Now, This is something I mention, I think, in all my presentation everywhere I go. This is from the world of organic agriculture, the excellent publication from Fibel and IFOAM. It's the size of the organic food and drink markets. So this market is constantly growing, so every year it's a new and bigger figure. It almost doubled in 10 years, and it's close to $100 billion. So that's pretty big. The largest markets are indeed the United States and the EU. So basically, North America and Europe account for about 90% of the organic trade, and Asia for 10%. If you look at the graph on the side, you can see that there is a small problem. There is no mention of Africa. So we are here to talk about organic trade in Africa, and the African market is very small. We don't have much data, but in terms of stats, it's almost non-existent. If we look at what's being traded, according to Nielsen, which is a market research firm in the US, in the United States, the biggest products in terms of market share are milk, salads, eggs, chicken, and apples. So these are not products that you would source from Africa. So this might not be like our best opportunity. Now, if you look at the EU market, this is maybe more favorable for Africa. The main products imported from all over the world are tropical fruits, almost 1/4, well, a bit more than 1/4 of the total import value, coffee and tea, other fruits, cocoa beans, and olive oil. All of these products can be sourced from Africa. Now, other interesting subsectors, organic subsectors, which are growing pretty fast. Baby care, it's in the US, it's growing really fast, about more than 20% growth last year. And you have many subsectors, food, milk, skincare products, shampoo. So people are willing to spend more to ensure that their children get healthy products. The aquaculture sector is also growing very fast. I'm not sure that's the focus today, so I won't talk about it too long. But just to mention, like I was also saying earlier regarding voluntary sustainability standards, there are many competing standards for aquaculture, and the organic standard has a very low market share on this. Something also interesting, animal feed, because organic meat is becoming also more and more important, mostly poultry, swine, and less beef. So they need to be fed sustainably. We had a case recently brought up from a voluntary sustainability standard focusing on soy production. And they told us that actually they found out that to feed salmon in Norway, there was deforestation in Brazil because they are using soy from Brazil to feed salmons in Norway. And since they need a lot of soy, basically they are just deforesting. So the way you feed animals is very important. And the market for the organic market for animal feed is expected to grow by more than 7% over the next 10 years. Also something interesting, the global market for organic cosmetics is expected to exceed $20 billion by 2022. Now, something important, price premiums, because we know that certification has a price. We know that producing in a more sustainable way might have a price. You might have lower yields. It's not guaranteed, but it might happen. So organic products are sold at a higher price than conventional products to make this work. And despite the fact that the supply is increasing, the market is increasing, the price premiums, according to the available information, are remaining pretty high, about on average above 20%. But there is a small problem. The problem is that most of these price premiums are going in the pockets of the retailers. And that's why maybe the retail sector loves organic, because they are making, in some countries, twice more money on organic products than on conventional products. And this has a consequence, and it is that a lot of consumers don't have access or don't have a satisfactory access to organic products. One of the good recommendations from the FAO dialogue on agroecology was to have shorter value chains and a more direct relationship between producers and consumers. I think that's important for the future of the organic sector. And that's something I completely agree with. Now, organic trade in Africa. I mean, I was so happy when I was asked to do this presentation, but I was a bit scared too, because like I mentioned earlier, there is no information. When you read, well, the reference publication, which is the World of Organic Agriculture, you see that all you can find on Africa, well, most of what you can find about Africa is production area and number of producers, which is amazing if you're working in conservation. If you're working on social issues, it's not so great because you don't know what's the income of these producers. You don't have much information. But so this is more or less what you have in terms of production area. And you can see that the main crop in Africa in terms of area is coffee by far, followed by olives, oilseed, cocoa, nuts, and tropical fruits. And you will see that there is not always a connection between the size of the production area and the market value of these crops. So the African market, or the African organic sector, is mostly export-oriented. Well, you can see that also from the first slide that I had with the size of the market. Since there is not a big market in Africa, organic products are mostly exported. But there are some positive trends, like an emerging domestic market, and some challenges too. I think there will be a session on policies. There are very few countries with organic standards, and if you don't have certified products, can you track organic sales? Do you have an organic market? That's a question. And then indeed limited market information. Now, figures. I'm from UNCTAD, we love numbers. So I was very, very happy to find out that the US, they have HS codes. HS codes, for those who don't know, are basically custom so codes for products. And at the maximum level of precision that you can get, the US came up with codes for the organic products. So now you can track organic imports into the US, not for all the products, but for some of them. And for two major crops in Africa, I was able to find this information. So first, the olive oil. So last year, the extra virgin olive oil, mostly imported from Tunisia, was the biggest recorded import from Africa into the US, with a trade value exceeding $70 million US dollars. This varies a lot. The export value of olive oil into the US, as you can see, and the market share of Tunisian or African olive oil in the US varies a lot too, between about 25% to almost 50%, depending on the years. This is why you have such a variation. Something more stable are the coffee imports. So Arabica, mostly imported from Ethiopia, and this is actually a market on which Africa has a growing market share. I think with that we went from about 9% of the US imports in 2009 to 13% of the US imports in 2018. So this is a positive trend. I was surprised to see that because there are HS codes for mango and banana, I could not find any organic imports of mango and banana. I know that a lot of organic bananas imported to the US are from Peru. They had a huge success in developing this market. For mangoes, I was a bit more surprised. There is still no data for cocoa. And also something worth noting is that these products, and it's the same situation for conventional agriculture, are exported in bulk, meaning that even for olive oil, which is a processed product, the containers are, I think, over 18 kilograms, and the coffee is exported in bulk and non-roasted. So this is not where you have the highest value, and this is not also what creates the biggest level of employment and income for your local producers. Now, about the EU market. I was also very happy to see that the EU has now a tool to trace organic imports. They cannot yet give the exact value, so it's estimated, but there was a policy brief or a market brief published by the EU breaking down the organic imports into the EU last year. So they estimated the market share, and in terms of market share, Tunisia is a leading organic exporter into the EU with about 4% of the EU market, and 9 African countries from all African regions export more than 10,000 tons of organic products into the EU, or at least exported more than 10,000 tons last year. So as you can see, the main crops exported by Africa were tropical fruits and spices, nuts and spices, with Ivory Coast and Ghana supplying about 3% of the total imported volume, coffee and tea, with Ethiopia and Uganda supplying about 8% of the total imports, and cocoa beans, for which Africa has a big share of the market, with a significant number of countries exporting about 37%, supplying 37% of the market. And also, it's worth noting that Morocco and Tunisia export significant quantities of fruits and olive oil into the EU. Now, the domestic market. For me, this is maybe the most important, because if we want to develop organic trade in Africa, we must have a domestic market. And it also offers more opportunity if you want to have processed products. You would have probably less certification issues on your domestic market, because you can design a standard that works better for your domestic producers. And it's also a nice way to develop intra-African trade. Unfortunately, there's very little information on the African domestic market. I think only FIBL is tracking the retail sales in 3 countries, in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. And in 2017, those sales were worth about $17 million, and most of these sales were happening in Ethiopia. Despite this lack of information and this small size, there are also positive signs. First of all, lots of very good PGS initiatives. This is something that I was lucky to discuss with local producers. It was also mentioned a lot at the last African Organic Conference. So this is something that works for local producers. Then there's also the rise of Africa's middle class. According to the last estimates I was able to find, there is, if we accepting South Africa, the African middle class has a spending power of approximately $400 million per day, and this is expected to grow significantly over the next years, meaning that more people will be able to afford organic products. And the fact that the middle class is growing is also goes also along with the development of the retail sector, which is important for the development of the organic market. Now the conventional supermarkets and other modern stores are still very small in terms of market share in Africa, about 10%, and the rest of the sales are done through informal channels. But this is growing. And also something I think it's important is that there are enhanced direct sales opportunities, mostly because we have this thing, and thanks to internet and mobile banking, producers and consumers are increasingly connected, and it's easier to market your products. So e-commerce sales in Africa could reach 75 billion in the next 10 years. And some organic products are already available on e-commerce platforms. I think the example that I have on the top, I think I saw this product in one of the stands. It's available on Jumia. And something that's also very interesting is that you have some platforms specializing on organic products. In Kenya, I was able to find something named Kalimoni Green. I don't know if you know about it, where you can order organic baskets. You have the same type of platform or distribution channel in Morocco, where they even have electric scooters in some cities, I think in Casablanca, to deliver organic baskets. So this is very sustainable. And yesterday at lunch, I discussed with one of our organic champions, Mwatim Ajuma, who told me about something really impressive that she did at her farm. She set up, starting from a WhatsApp group, she set up a distribution network of organic baskets. So just using a WhatsApp group and mobile banking. And she came up with very good ideas. She has baskets made of banana leaves, so they are fully coconuts? Was it coconut? Okay, coconut. I thought it was banana, my bad. Coconut leaves. So this is fully sustainable. She recycles the waste from the organic fruits and vegetables. And now she has set up a Facebook page and she's setting up a website. So this shows that there are very simple tools that can be used by organic producers to market their products. And I think this is really positive, because that's probably the future. Something else, I think there is going to be a case study about that, but there is also more and more farmer markets. I'm from Senegal. I say that to everybody, so sorry if I mentioned it too many times. But when I came back home, I think it was end of last year, people were all excited about the farmers market with organic products, and they are bringing their families. And in many countries, it's becoming more and more important. This is trendy. Young people like it, and it's also a good way to develop the organic market. Now, development options. A simple story. We have a project called National Green Export Review to support the development of green production and trade, so green value chains, basically. And in one of our countries, we were contacted by a mango importer. Well, the importer is based in Europe. To make it really good, this importer is an African lady, and she was very much willing to support organic producers. So, I mean, can it get any better? So I went to a national workshop. There was the National Mango Producer Association. There were organic producers. And I told them, I said, okay, there is an importer who cannot find organic mangoes in this country. And they said, how come we do have some supply? Some said, we will come back to you. We will send you some information. And we will harness this opportunity. Well, nobody came. Nothing happened. The organic component, because it was a small project, was even dropped, because there is, in fact, little awareness. There is a problem of capacity, and maybe the current, like the EU standard, is not necessarily working very well for African organic producers. Now about solutions. Like a French politician used to say, the road is straight, but the slope is very steep. So this is not easy. I think everybody agrees on what needs to be done, but it is difficult to do it. So something important, make certification work for small producers. Like I said earlier, there are very positive examples of PGS. Something that could be interesting is maybe a continental standard. This way, more countries would have an organic market and would be able, and more producers would be able to market their products as organic. The Continental Free Trade Agreement, CFTA, entered into force this year. And there's going to be many discussions on how to implement it. Maybe having some work done on a continental organic standard would make sense. Something else that's important, raising awareness outside the organic community, because I think that's something which is good and not so good. People from the organic family are very motivated. They believe a lot in what they do, but do they talk enough to people who are not convinced? Are business sufficiently involved? It's very good that at this conference business are involved, but I think this can also always be improved. Something that we do at UNCTAD, identifying and supporting high potential value chains, and then something also that's effective, developing linkages with the retail sector, with the tourism sector, with trade promotion agencies, because you need to identify those high potential markets, finance institutions, otherwise you cannot have your product certified, and importers. Oops. Okay. Now something that I particularly liked, that I found very interesting. I had the opportunity to get in touch with a young, let's say, entrepreneur who set up an agri-food tech platform. She started in India, but now the platform is global. And this platform brings together startups who are offering services to agriculture, to producers. What's interesting is that these solutions, they are initiated in developing countries, and they are very simple to implement. I think we have some service providers who could join this in the exhibition booth. So they are simple, easy to implement, and mostly mobile-based. And they have a great potential to develop South-South collaboration. So one of the examples from this platform, it's Footprint, which is a mobile-based produce aggregation and food traceability solution. It was implemented in India in the maize sector with about 1,000 producers. And what does it do? They have a blockchain technology to improve the traceability and to make it very easy for producers to enter information about their products. And this has a very positive consequence. So you have enhanced traceability, but you also have better produce estimation. So this can facilitate access to finance, sales, and production planning. And they also have mobile-based advisory services and crop monitoring. So maybe it's a solution, because in many countries where we have projects, when we talk to people, they tell us, okay, we need to support producers. They need to have enhanced, increased capacity, but the capacity to build their capacity is not there. So maybe that's a solution. And then there are also other very fancy and high-tech solutions, like a credit scoring system, portable fruit analysis, using some big words that I'm not even sure I understand, but maybe some of you do, or even drone-operated health management system. When I was preparing this presentation, and this is my last slide, or almost my last slide, I have one more. I found out that FAO, they have an e-agriculture platform, and that recently there was an East African Digital Farmer Conference and exhibition. Now, not all of these agri-food tech products are agroecology friendly, but I think this is an avenue that is worth exploring to see how those technologies can be used to promote agroecology. this is my last slide. I was asked by the organizers to come up with some burning questions. So these are the questions I think are important. Are we only preaching to the believers? At these events, we only have people who firmly believe in organics, but are we talking to the other people, like all the people we need to convince? Are they here? Where is the private sector? Retailers, processors, exporters? Like I said, I'm very happy to see that at this conference, private sector is included, so that's a great start. Usually they are not, from what I've seen. Another question, why aren't we focusing more on trade? I think in the first session, someone said it is not about trade. I disagree. It is also about trade, because if you do not trade your products, why would you, make them? Why would you farm if you don't make a living? Then something very, very important to me, how can certification really work for African producers and consumers? And finally, how far can we go with a model centered on exporting raw products to a few selected markets? So that's it. Thank you very much, and I look forward to discussing with you.
Thank you, Malik, for a good presentation, very inspiring. And also, you have ended up with very good questions for all of us to challenge us, whether we are only preaching to the choir. As I call the next presenter, I propose that we have all the presentations first, and then we have a round of questions from the floor. The second presenter is Ms. Barbara Zilli, who works with IFOAM International, and she will be talking to us about the impact of CEDA support to the organic sector in East Africa. CEDA has supported organic agriculture in East Africa for quite some time, and she'll talk about it and inspire us as to what we need to do to scale up the efforts that have already been done. Welcome, Barbara.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Barbara Zilli. As Chiari just said, I'm working for IFOAM Organics International. I'm heading the capacity building department there. And can I have the presentation? Thanks. The last question, or one of the questions of Malik, was actually focusing more on trade. And one of the main donors from Europe, CEDA, the Swedish Agency for Development, has indeed focused a lot on trade in the last couple of decades. Actually, it's 2 decades that they have supported a number of projects focusing on trade. So I start a little bit to talk about IFOAM, but only short. And then I had a few slides on organic trade, but I think that Malik has talked a lot about trade, so I don't want to, to repeat, and then go directly also to give a short overview, a historical overview of projects that have also supported the building up of the organic sector in East Africa. Sorry. I think I need a bit help here. Oh yeah, okay. So IFOAM Organics, we consider ourselves as the global agents of change towards truly sustainable agriculture. And we are actually a membership organization. We have currently around 850 members globally. And we discuss with our members, and we get our legitimacy from our membership to do our actions together also with like-minded organizations. Our vision is that we achieve a broad adoption of organic agriculture or of sustainable agriculture worldwide. And our mission is leading change organically. I saw it yesterday that there were, oh yeah, okay. So one of our What are we doing actually? We have been setting a lot of organic landmarks since 1972. That was when we were founded. One of the main landmarks is the 4 principles of organic agriculture, and there are several more. We also share information. We usually have an annual statistic book with what we publish together with FIBEL about the organic sector. We link also to the global network. We have regional bodies, we support them. We have self-structured, organized bodies in different regions. We advocate at the global level, usually at the UN level. We promote verification systems from formal to informal, as for instance, participatory guarantee systems, or also community-supported agriculture. We provide advice to governments on organic regulations, and we provide also capacity building. We have an own organic academy where we have different courses, organic leadership courses, but also we provide courses according to needs of organizations. Here, a short slide on the 4 principles. I guess we all know them quite well. So it's the principle of health, ecology, fairness, and care. Our theory of change aims at the adoption of sustainable agriculture, and we think that there needs to be a balance between supply and demand. And supply means that all operators on the value chains needs to have a good understanding, capacity, skills for organic agriculture. And on the other side, the consumers are having a lot of awareness to demand organic products. And this is all feasible if there's also a conducive policy environment. Organic agriculture, and we have heard it already yesterday, has a lot of combination and connections to the SDGs at several levels. Yeah. So I don't want to go too much into detail here, and rather go directly to the overview of the different projects that CEDA also supported in East Africa. So sorry, it doesn't really work so well. I don't know why it doesn't work. You know, it's this one. So there we are. It started more or less in '95, and there was not so much organic yet. Maybe one can say it started at, at a very low level. Of course, there were a few pilot projects in Tanzania and Uganda on different crops, and there were also some NGO-driven initiatives in the countries of East Africa. Then in 1998, the EPOPA started. Some of you might still remember that. EPOPA stands for Export Promotion of Organic Products in Africa. And it basically implemented export projects. It was a project that also saw development through trade. So it developed export projects where exporters contracted farmers. They set up extension services. They did quality control on raw material, and they also pre-financed or bought products from farmers and traded them and shipped them. Another important point was the development of institutions, certification bodies, but also national organic movements. And capacity building was one third pillar, with giving trainings in different sections. Some of the key results of these projects were that more than 100,000, around 110,000 farmers had been able to export products, and their income from those organic products were around 15 million US dollars. And the export value indeed was even double the amount, around 30 million US dollar. Nogamo and Tuam, the two national organic movements in Uganda and Tanzania, had been started. And farmers, of course, also benefited in terms of a better price structure. The income was increased from, well, there's a huge range from 20 to 300%, so it depended really much on what kind of project and so on they were part of. And what did they do with the income? They also built better houses or better schooling for their children and so on. The success factors of EPOPA actually were that, yes, you have to include the commercial sector, and there is a clear focus on the market, to make it short. So that was really the success factors, and that was also the assumption of the projects. So they have been kind of verified. At that time, it also became clear that it's standards, and it was very costly for farmers to deal with them. And the idea was to develop a common standard for the entire region. And in that project OSEA, the organic standards have been developed, the EUAPS as we know it today, and they are still in place. Then a project was designed to also make those farmers use the standards to improve income. That was the overall objective and livelihood. But the main actions focused also on improved certification services, better institutions, and assisting in the use of standards. Some of the key results were then that indeed the PGS, for example, the participatory guarantee system, was installed, the structures were set, and also the certification bodies in Uganda and in Tanzania were strengthened, as well as a huge awareness raising in the region about the standards took place, and policy development and expansion to Burundi and Rwanda. Some kind of parallel developments took place in 2011. The decision of the heads of the states from the African Union on organic farming was adopted to mainstream organic agriculture in Africa. And based on that, the EUAI was created, which we heard about it also already yesterday. So last but not least, it was OTER. OTER is the Organic Trade and Value Chain Development Program, which is also coming to an end, basically with this conference. OTER also supported this conference, and the evaluation is going on. Also, the evaluator team is indeed today here. And the objective was also to improve livelihoods, to improve incomes of rural communities in East Africa. And the focus was on the regional cooperation in line with also the East African community aim to develop the regional trade. The main action was indeed to consolidate the organic guarantee system in the region, to increase the regional trade and to putting the EU APS and EUAM, that's the mark, the Kilimo High. We could see it also on the products outside. Some have the mark on their products, into practice. And another one was to support the domestic market in terms of participatory guarantee system. Malik has also pointed it out, that there is indeed still a lack of data. I want to show a bit later what we have achieved so far in this region. Again, the national umbrellas to support. I have a bit less time, so I'm going to the key results. There has been the focus on export is not only sufficient, we need to look more at domestic markets. That's also what Malik has highlighted. There are lots of trade barriers we have to deal with. And the policy developments, of course, are lengthy and complex processes. So it takes time to change. The access and availability of information is an issue. We need to get better on that. And there is still insufficient research on organic agriculture. And I will end here because also of very limited time. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for taking us through history of where CIDA started supporting organic agriculture in East Africa. And I'm proud to say that East Africa region was the first region to adopt a regional organic standard and also a regional organic mark in the world. Is that not an accomplishment? We need to clap. Thank you. I want to invite the next speaker, who is Bo van Elzaka, who will talk about agroecology and trade. Do they go hand in hand? Can one go without the other, or are they counterparts? Welcome, Bo.
My presentation. Right? Right. My title is In Symbiosis or as Counterparts. I was a bit in doubt about the title because actually I felt that sometimes agroecology promoters are at odds with the market or marketing or say the private sector. Yeah, they are very good in promoting agroecology, but yeah, say forget that there normally should be a market, that farmers need to sell some products. Even when we talk about subsistence farmers, they also have to sell some product to pay for the daily necessities. My background is in tropical agriculture. I graduated in a time when the international organic market was just started. So by chance, I became involved in the first organic coffee, the first organic tea, the first organic cotton, the first organic bananas on the European market. I continued working in developing value chains most of my life, you can say, although we also went into researching value chains and training, building up capacity in value chains. My story is based on three main experiences, you can say. The EPOPA project, where it was already mentioned. At the end of the EPOPA project, we kind of left East Africa. It was really the idea that the, say, East Africans, of whom we had built capacity, they would continue with the whole process. Yeah? So we moved to West Africa, where we kind of started a similar process. Then, more recently, I was involved in comparative research organized by FIBOL, the International Institute for Organic Farming, comparing high and low conventional with high and low organic input farming. That gave me some observations where I will talk about. And nowadays I'm working with IFOAM in the project Organic Markets for Development, where we try to include all the, say, experiences from the last 30 years into developing organic markets for West Africa. I've been involved in many products, the traditional commodities, the coffee, the cocoa, the cotton, but also the so-called non-traditional exports, the smaller things like herbs, like essential oils. We've also been involved in aquatic products, some processing. I mean, a lot of people talk or like value addition, but I can tell you that it is very difficult to make a marmalade in Tanzania, as we have the experience, that can compete on the international market. Yeah, Africa does not have too much comparative advantage when it comes to processed products, unfortunately. We never worked on the staple foods, even when they were in the organic farming system, because the staple foods really cannot be exported. Yeah? And it is until today that sometimes it's cheaper to import maize from the United States than to try to collect maize here in Africa. Yeah, I work on cassava in Ghana, and in the middle of the country, so not in the port, but in the middle of the country, there is a man making pastries from from cassava flour, and he imports it from Thailand because he finds it too difficult to get the product organized in Ghana itself, because the product quality is irregular, the farmers are not reliable. Yeah. When the business goes well, they want to increase their price. The transport is not reliable. So he says, sorry, boys, I'm importing my cassava flour from Thailand. And we did not work on the local market because it was an export promotion program. So this is a This is a POPA program. I want to mention the donor investment. Yeah, SIDA was the donor. It was almost a commercial investment because they invest $14 million US, and as a result, there are 60,000 smallholders, 35 businesses, business combinations, you can say, benefiting the farmers directly with $3 million a year higher income, yeah, and exporting and benefiting the country with 25 million exports per year. Yeah, so it is almost a commercial investment. I think that is one of the reasons that they stopped with it. The main thing with APOPA was it was 10 years or 13 years. It was quite a major push to get organic agriculture, on the radar or established in East Africa. All the time, it was all about smallholder farmers. Yeah, you don't have to, if you want to have organic products or conversion to organic agriculture, you don't have to worry too much about, say, commercial operators. They know how to collect their information. They usually can manage, say, the technical problems. So the focus was also always on smallholder farmers. There's still talk about subsistence farmers, but I'm not sure. Of course, there are many smallholder farmers who grow their home consumption, their own food, but I don't know any farmers that are not selling any excess crops or that not have a cash crop. Smallholder farmers are very nice to work with from environmental or ecological perspective because they are small scale, they work in diversified landscapes, have a much better biodiversity. They do have a crop to sell. They eat some food, they eat the crop themselves, but then they store some and they sell it week by week on the local market to buy daily necessities. And when they have more of a cash crop, they have something like a bulk harvest that they have to sell in one go. And that money they can use for so-called investments. I mean, it's not big money, but that is the time that they can think about their housing, about their tricycle, about telephone, etc. We do see in Africa that also conventional farmers, so farmers in general, struggle with the market. Yeah, the markets are not very well developed in Africa. Bad roads, bad communication, no finance, lack of the private sector. Yeah, there's not a private sector here like you have in Latin America and certainly not like in Asia. So a lot of farmers are stuck with their products or get a low price for their products. Improving marketing, even when not organic, already makes a big change. What is the organic intervention? We always work with the value chain approach, yeah, and that means that somebody needs to organize it, yeah. So you need a lead firm. It can also be a farmer organization, and then you need, field officers, documentation officers, an extension person, some sort of an inspector type of person. You need staff, you can say. You have to be very aware of quality. If you want to go into export markets or even local markets, you have to be very much aware of quality. Hygiene, for example. Yeah. And then with smallholder farmers, you have grower group certification. That means that there's an internal control system, that's this ICS abbreviation, internal control system, or internal, smallholder management system, you can call it, meaning that farmers need to be registered, their farms need to be registered, farmers need to be trained, and then it needs to be followed up whether they are really implementing the standards, you can say. And that includes an activity what's called the annual internal inspection. Group certification means that farmers are responsible as a group for the fact that all farmers are organic. Yeah, so when one farmer uses chemicals, the others are to react and say, hey, this product should no longer be sold organic, because the risk is that when residues are found in the product, the whole group of farmers is decertified. Yeah? And that's why they have this internal responsibility to look over each other's shoulder. Yeah? That sounds a bit negative, yeah? But it also can create group dynamics, that they act together to improve their situation. Then when the product is marketed as organic, there's a premium paid, and this premium pays for, say, the project organization, can pay for inputs, can pay for the certification, and can pay a better price to the farmers. So it's a self-financing mechanism. So that sounds like a very interesting pathway, I would say, to improve farm practices, including agroecological practices, to work on the income of the farmers, and to improve livelihoods. Yeah? But you need to build a value chain. This is an example of a value chain. I don't go into detail. In the middle, you see the so-called primary value chain, the farmers that need to be organized. In this case, in a CREMA, a Community Resource Management Association, which I think from the perspective of agroecology is very interesting. It's not a cooperative, but it's a Community Resource Management Association. Then the farmers do on-farm some processing, in this case drying. Then there's a community milling station. Then a buyer is coming who pays, who weighs, who does administration. And then it is shipped. There's an importer, yeah. The best projects are actually when there's a partnership between the importer with the farmers, yeah, a so-called vertical integration, yeah. And then there's retail and consumers. Yeah. That all happens in an environment, an enabling environment, and sometimes a not so enabling environment. Yeah. And then the primary value chain is supported by, say, service providers, yeah, which includes your Ministry of Agriculture or departments of your Ministry of Agriculture, NGOs, finance banks, rural banks, yeah, input suppliers, etc. 2 more slides. So then we did this ProEco OFSA research, comparing organic with conventional farming, and we selected 6 sites, you can say, in 3 countries, with fairly mature organic projects, organic farmers, yeah, I think sets of 200 farmers each, comparing them with, say, neighboring conventional farmers. Yeah? And we did data collection for 3 years, and there I saw some, say, cracks in the dream, the organic dream, because you saw a number of things. That when the project is really set up to export one thing, like coffee, yeah, it may ignore the rest of the farm. Yeah? You can even have organic certification of just a field, and who cares about the rest? That is fine as long as the farmers don't use chemicals in the rest of the farm, or when they are organic in the rest of the farm. But we have seen recently, say, the contamination of also organic fields with, well, thank you, glyphosate, yeah, coming in from the maize, yeah, the food crop of the farmers. You also see that organic projects, whether they are certified or not, they usually are started with a lot of enthusiasm, but when there's no market or when there's continuous market problems, they fail. Yeah? So project may be started with the promise of a market, a promise of a premium, yeah, but they can also stop when that market doesn't become reality. You see sometimes that the farmers have crops in the rotation that are also organic, are not exported, yeah, because most exporters are monocrop, yeah, it's either coffee, yeah. It's quite exceptional when the exporter also wants to buy the vanilla, but he's not going to buy the ginger or the yellow root from the same farming system. So then very often the farmer organization is not able to find markets for the other crops in the farming system. And it means that the whole organic thing leans on this one crop that is certified. You often see that exporters, well, you always see that exporters start saving money. You also see that farmer organizations are often stagnating, do not continue to provide incentives to their field staff. So also there you see some stagnation, yeah? Meaning there is no continuous improvement, there's, say, nothing going on, yeah? And then you get this intrusion of these chemicals from outside, yeah? We also saw very clearly that in organic by default organic projects, by low input, so passive organic farming, there may be land degradation, same as in conventional low input farming. Yeah, so there are some things to say about the agroecological content of some of these export projects. Another observation is that the organic certification means that there should be a conversion program. Yeah, farmers have to wait for 2-3 years before they can sell the product from a field as organic because there may be old contamination, etc. That's why the Europeans and Americans have a conversion period. Nobody pays the farmer for that for their product during that period. So what you see is, to start organic farming, the African farmer often opens a new field. Yeah, so you actually encourage, yeah, well, deforestation is a little bit big word, yeah, but there's indeed shifting cultivation, slash and burn, yeah, to start your organic farming on a fresh, newly opened field. Not so agroecological, yeah. So you then also see that, thank you, you also see that because smallholder farming is often, starting from the slash and burn, that when it is a passive or not so active organic system, that you fail to make a permanent system. Farmers have to continue opening new fields to continue. Last slide. So to have a more positive impact from this organic market, yeah, at the moment, the EU is revising the grower group certification criteria. IFOM is in the position to lobby, to stress that it should really be full farm conversion. Yeah, it should also stress that there should be active organic practices. Yeah, when you don't use any fertilizers, sorry, your soil degrades. It should not be possible to certify it as organic. Yeah? There should be continuous improvement, and there should be, when it is an exporter-led or an exporter-pulled project, there should still be some sort of farmer organization. Yeah? There must be a farmer organization. Then some products are exported, but then there should also be more attention for marketing the other organic products on the local market. Yeah, so there should be alignment with PGS, etc. Yeah. The other bottleneck that I see is that there's really need for leaders, yeah, for project organizers, for field officers, to organize the value chain. Yeah, and I do not see too many places where these people are generated, apart from in practice. So I have high hopes that the GIZ, the Knowledge Hub, for example, yeah, can really help in generating the capacity, yeah, on low level, on a medium level, yeah, project people, field officers, to get organic more off the ground. We work on that in the Organic Markets for Development project, yeah. If we are able to take away these possible negative sides of organic trade, yeah, then I think agroecology and organic markets can work perfectly together to improve the livelihoods of the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo, for giving us ideas of how to organize value chains from smallholder farmers, and also ideas of how to create more impact through market access. I want to remind all of us that this session was about generating ideas of how to strengthen marketing, how do we develop sustainable markets, both for the local market and also for regional and export markets. The last speaker for this session, I want to invite her, is Martha Kihara, and she has been instrumental in setting up a farmers market within Nairobi, and she's going to share her story of developing her experiences of developing local markets for organic products that has facilitated a number of farmers to access local markets. Welcome, Martha.
I want to say jambo or good morning to all of you. And as a farmer in Kenya, I want to welcome you and to say we are happy that this conference did take place here. My job is very easy this morning because mine is just to be able to take you through a small journey on what we have done as a small group of farmers in starting a very, very small initiative of creating a local market. Now, I just want to talk about my group. My group is called AINOGOF. AINOGOF means Innovative Organic Group of Farms, and this innovative group of farms is open to Kenyans from all the counties. But we are small, I need to tell you that. And also, at the same time, we only deal with farmers who are trained in organic farming practices. And so all the farmers that are in the group, the AINOGROF, they are trained. The group was founded late in 2014. And actually, the people who have presented before me have talked about PGS. We operate under the Participatory Guarantee System, which is a system that helps farmers to come together and to be able to get a subsidized certification, because to get a third-party certification is expensive for small-scale holders. And so with the support of the local body, COAN, we've been able to get farmers certified once they are in the group. Thirdly, members are not prohibited from doing their own things. Outside the group, you can go for third-party certification, and you can do export if you so desire. But so far, we don't have a farmer who is exporting. But we do have farmers who went, in some years back, they went for third-party certification. So, what was the starting point? Unfortunately, our starting point was not in trade. We did not come together because of trade. We came together because we were concerned about the health of our families. We were friends, so it's a cohesive group. It's a very tight-bound group. So we came together because we were concerned because of health issues. Out of experience, some of us had gone through negative experiences, either with cancer, with diabetes, with hypertension, or our family members. So really, the way it was founded, it was not founded to sell in the market. But then soon, once we came together, we said, okay, our objective is to provide safe food for our families. But then how are we going to do it? Not one person can be able to satisfy or be able to get a family basket that is complete. You can't. But if we come together as a group, we'll be able to produce different things, and then we can come together and exchange. So that's how the group was founded. That is how it was started, basically and primarily for our own families. Then what happened, we identified that we had a need. We were not trained in organic farming practices. So we decided we need to address the need first, to go ahead and look for trainers who would help us out in addressing the need to understand and know about organic farming practices. So I just want to say that, sorry, it's gone to, okay. You can see a group of farmers. That is how we came together as friends, and we started visiting one another. And then on the right is one of our youngest farmers. He's called Kimani, very, very, very good farmer. And we have the age bracket. We have farmers who are as young as 23. Our oldest farmer is about 75 years old. Okay, we went into training. We have 3 trainers in the group. We decided to have in-house training. So we actually invited certified trainers to join our group so that they were in-house. And with those trainers, we have been able to hold about 7 trainings, and we have had about 40 farmers trained. When the farmers are trained, they don't have to join our group. They can go do their own farming, and they can produce their own food. But also they are open to joining the group. And you know, when you train together, you're able to maintain the standards as a group. But if people are trained by different groups, you cannot ascertain what they go through. So that is, and then we also have in the training, we don't only go through practices, we also have coaching, in-house coaching. Some people are very good in some areas. And then we look also for external trainers. We have gaps. We are not good in everything. So we have people like in input, like you can see in that photograph, we have people coming. And then we are also looking for partnerships. We are not good in some areas like customer care. We're not good in marketing. So we are also going to link up with education institutions that really excel in these areas, and they can provide us with these services. Our first market actually was between ourselves. We decided to exchange food. That is a group that has just completed the training. And then we come with the foods during trainings and during meetings. That's when we created the first market. First, we did barter trade, but later we did buying from each other. But we were faced with a challenge. We had produced more than we could consume. There was excess production. So how are we going to do, what were we going to do with that? And that's when the idea was born. Can we try to sell to other people who are interested in buying organic food? That's how we started the organic market. That is our market. It is very small, but it serves the people. So how do we go about selling? We go about selling really by doing, it is direct. It is farmer to consumer. But then in a static location, aggregated location, that's where we go. So we talk directly to the consumers. Initially, when we started, it was difficult, and we had our families were the first buyers, then our friends. Then after that, our families and our friends would introduce their friends. And so that's how now it started growing. And then, you know, the circle gets bigger and bigger. And then we started asking ourselves, how can we engage the electronic media to help us expand our market? And so we have opened a WhatsApp platform where every Friday we post the produce of what will be available on Saturday. We have our markets on Saturday. They run for a very few hours from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you do come to a market at 2 p.m., you will find it closed and you will not buy anything. So we have about, on that platform, we have 125 members who have joined. On a daily market, static market, we usually have about 25 to 30 consumers who walk in. And so how do we handle the buyers? Usually when we post the produce on the platform, people make orders. And then you can see the baskets, and then we put their orders in the basket. So it's easy for them to come and pick. They don't spend a lot of time in the market. And then we only have them paying to one person. And then the farmers are paid the following Saturday by the farmer who collects the money. So we do not promote in the market. The farmer just goes and points to what they want, or from their platform, they decide what they want. We also have, we are promoting value-added products. So that is the other thing we are also doing. And one thing that I should not forget is we also do have deliveries. They are limited, and the consumer pays for the delivery. We have Uber. We are able to engage Uber. We are able to engage motorbikes, and we are also able to engage taxis, but the consumer pays for that delivery. Quality control, somebody mentioned, that is an issue. So how do we deal with quality control? So we do peer supervision once a year, and that is going to be next week. Every June, we organize peer supervision for quality control. Every farmer is trained on how to supervise each other. And we have standards. We have tools that we use to do quality, supervision. It's like policing one another. So we go out, we have the technical trainers, they go out with a number of farmers, and they do the evaluation, and a report is written for each and every farmer. And gaps are identified, and that farmer is supposed to start addressing those gaps. Now there's a question, do we ever find farmers who violate the standards? The answer is yes, there are not many, but what do we do with them? We actually suspend a farmer. If they're found to be practicing something that is not acceptable and it is gross, we do suspend. We have not expelled anyone yet, but we have suspended. What else do we do? We use feedback. Yeah, thank you. We use feedback mechanisms from the consumers. That is also the other thing that we do. And if a consumer is not happy with something, we address it during our meetings. If they are happy with something, again, we improve on that area. So that is the other thing that we do. And the other way we maintain our quality control is we actually also do headhunting of people of integrity. People can cut corners, so we really do headhunting. When we are training, we actually observe the people who are being trained. We are going to have a training on the week of July the 8th to 11th. As you're training, we have about 15 farmers to be trained. As you're training, you observe people, and you start learning. These people I can trust, and you're able to pick out on people who are good in communities, people who can tell you they are very well informed who cuts corners and who does not cut corners. And then we're able to support those people or pick them and really welcome them. We're in particular encouraging the youth to join us because we will give the stakeholders to them. All right. Opportunities, and this really is one of my last ones. And we have a lot of opportunity. One, we can grow this market. How can we grow this market? By increasing the production. How do we increase the production? By increasing the training. But then, how do we enlarge the market? We need to do more marketing. How do we do the marketing? By partnering with people like Taskis, by even doing more promotions. But amazingly, word of mouth, because of the trust, is the greatest tool to use in our marketing. So we have a great opportunity, but the other area of great opportunity is creating an effective delivery system. We have a gap in that area. We can do better. The other area where we could even improve is credibility. How do we get to be credible? If we have scientific ways of proving to people that the food is safe, we have a challenge. And I'm talking to everyone here. The challenge is the credible way of testing for food, other than doing peer supervision, is by lab testing, SGS, of the chemical residue. It is expensive for the farmers. One sample is 20,000 Kenya shillings. That's about $200 US. I mean, it's hard to get that. So we need to have systems that are subsidizing these tests. Even if they're conducted randomly once a year or twice a year, we need to have this to be able to talk with confidence that actually we are providing what is good. Then the other area is traceability. We've started a system of traceability. We've given codes to each farmer, but we need to do better in being able to track a product back to the farmer. Right now, farmers can be able to tell this product is from so-and-so, but we need to improve on the issue of being able to trace a product so that we can challenge every farmer, that we can track you right to your farm, and so you need to style up. So the other area that we want to work on is, thank you, I think I'm just about to finish. The other area that we want to work on is working on schedules because of production. We have a gap. During dry seasons, we run out of produce that is key for our consumers. And so we are working with COAN to help us with planning out on planting schedules and how to use the little water that we have. And with that, I think I come to the end. I am not able to give you everything, but I really want to say thank you for the opportunity that we've been granted just to share with you our story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha, for that inspiring story. It's to say that it can be done, it's being done. The issue is how do we scale it up? I want to take this opportunity to invite the panelists, the presenters, to come in front at the podium. And I propose that we do a round of questions, clarifications. Also to say that this is just highlights. We have breakout session 7 and breakout session 8, which will look into details some of the issues that have been raised. Of course, there is a number of issues that there are a number of issues that have come up, and as they sit, one of the issues is about data, limited data from Africa in terms of especially the trade data, and it's unfortunate that the data that comes from either US or Europe. It doesn't come from Africa. And I want to challenge all of us, the leaders in the organic space, to do something about generating this data. So do we have the mics? And can we have a round of 3, 4, 5 questions, burning ones, and then we close the session because also of time. We start with the right. Yep.
Yes, I'm Emma Silibrand from FAO. I would like to ask Martha about the experience here in Kenya, in Nairobi. I saw in the pictures that almost all the people that work in your experience are women. I don't know if the group are exclusively formed by women or not. And I would like to ask you if this experience, how does it contribute to the autonomy of these women, and what obstacles have you faced being a group of women in agroecology or food production? Thank you.
Thank you. Please take the question. This row, a lady. So we are going to take 5 questions, 1 in each row, and then the last one by Dr. Hans. And then we close. As I said, these are just highlights. We have breakout session 7 and breakout session 8, where we can engage further in more details. Please. Is the mic on?
Keep on talking.
Yep. Has it worked, or should we go to another row? Okay.
When you talk about exports, surely there's minimum smallest quantity that can be exported, or we're talking tons, because if you look at the last example, small-scale farmers export quantities. So if you want to get into the export market, what sort of quantities, and is aggregation the only option?
Okay, quite clear. I think that goes to Bo. The other row? No question. The other row? Okay. Yep.
Hakim Waliaini, small scale farm from Ghana, from ESA, Eastern Southern Customs as well. My question is, honey is one of the organic products we believe exist, but amongst the presentations on the market, I do not see a lot with information about honey. Why?
Okay. Clear. Then the gentleman on the second row from the left.
I'm watching Godfrey Anyoni. My question goes to in terms of pricing of your organic products, how does it compare to the convention, the price?
On the extreme left.
My name is Vincent Tarila. I work at Self-Help Africa. We are currently implementing Agri-Fi Challenge Fund targeting businesses that are working with farmers. I have a question to any of the panelists. In this discussion with agroecology, small and medium enterprises plays a very critical role. They can be the drivers who can create this substantial change we are looking for. How best can we involve them to make sure that their business models are able to integrate agroecology in a more sustainable way? Thank you.
Thank you. And that row, the gentleman in green, and Prof, you have the mic.
Thank you very much. Mine is an addition to what SIDA supported Andy Popper. At Uganda Matters University, 250 students and stakeholders were trained in organic agriculture starting from 2006. In 2007, a bachelor's degree was started at Uganda Matters University with 25 students each year until now it runs. Then in 2009, a master's program was started and it still runs with 50 students per year for 3 years, supported by SIDA. That is about 300 students for that period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the addition. Please pass me the mic to the gentleman in green, and then we have the last one from Dr. Hans, and then we close the session.
Thank you. I'm Daniel Tina for a great program with the school. To the last presenter, we have avenue for other groups that are certified to join the groups which I said. For example, the groups we are working with that are certified to review about that they can join the movement.
Okay, thank you. And finally, let's have the question from Dr. Hans. Please excuse me because of time, and we want to manage it so that we don't get late, that we manage also the other sessions.
Thank you, Mr. I also thank the speakers for their very interesting, informative talks. The one concern I have with organic is that, as somebody mentioned it, 20% price extra, development of a middle class who can afford it. What about the masses? And I know from a project with Vision is supporting in Tanzania, SATS, I was told that actually the products are not more expensive than the conventional agricultural one because there's less input or farm-grown input. So I think we have to start to be careful about having the organic and the premium. That's maybe okay in Europe or elsewhere, but here I think we want this to be affordable for everybody and not reserved for the rich. I know there's certification costs which may be added, but again, you found all kinds of ways around it. So to me, it looks like, do you have an answer, maybe for Marta, are those products really more expensive when you go organic than if you grow conventional? Because the one thing you don't have is a depression, because as soon as you go organic or agroecological, you produce more. I showed you the graph yesterday. Not like in Europe where you have to fix all the system first. So to me it looks like there is a problem there, I think, which has to be addressed. If not, the organic will be for the elite. And that's exactly exactly what we need to fight. This is not true. And on UNCTAD, I haven't heard anything about true costing, because if you would make the case that if it costs a bit more, it's because it includes externalities, maybe we can ask a bit more, because we don't make all the problems like conventional. So I think these are lot of issues I didn't hear you talk about, and I'll be glad to hear a bit of some comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hans. And Dr. Matima is pleading for one, burning one, and I'll give her this, and then we close. Please. And then after her, the panelists, the presenters are going to be given an opportunity to respond to either the specific questions addressed to them or the general questions, and also have a parting shot, parting shot, yes.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this special position. I just want to concur with Hans where we get in this confusion between the organic development in the European and the developed countries and the organic development in our country. The first message the anti-organic people are bringing to us is that it is expensive. I am the witness. It is not expensive, because as much as possible you are trying to use your own internal input and do that. The best thing out of it, which is coming out from the market, is we sell faster. People recognize it. Even when you go to the market, they will tell you this spinach has been sprayed, this has not been sprayed. The unsprayed one will go very fast. So for most of us farmers there, we are okay that we sell. We don't even ask for premium. My product, I don't even ask them for premium. I just want to tell them that this is quality, and I'm selling you quality, and I calculate my cost of production, and I sell. So what is important is to help this farmer to understand what is their cost of production to get that, and not to compare to the organic, where the area where people have been already highly conventional and they are converting to organic. Is it true? With organic, we also had some studies done in Tanzania. You increase production, because where we are, in most of our smallholder farmers, we are neither organic nor conventional. We are in between. We hear it from all. Erosion is there, no crop rotation, we plant cassava. We are not doing what is supposed to be done in real organic. So if you shift them and they increase production, they don't have to think about that premium, because it sells on quality. The only thing is to go with awareness and telling people, if you people put your product there and say, this I spray, this I don't spray, they will buy the unsprayed one. So let the people know that how to get to the process to get this unsprayed one out, and then not go to this notion of you are pushing people to organic and cause them to ask for more money. I went to see a hotelier in Arusha and asked them, like, okay, what we do with organic, what we promote it, and they were so scared. For them, it's like, these are European brand hotels. You are now going to introduce people to demand more money for this product. But I said, no, we want to introduce people to understand, and especially what we are learning about the impact of all these pests and herbicides that is going around for their own health. And they don't have to go for the premium. Let's talk on quality and sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for clarification. And now, I want to start with Malik. Maybe there are some questions addressed to you, and also if you want to contribute and say your parting shot.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the very interesting questions. I think they are all very relevant. Regarding the kind of quantities that can be exported, my experience is that there is not really a minimum quantity. It depends also on the type of relationship with the buyer. We had a project in Madagascar where a cooperative was supported to export very, very high quality Arabica to a Michelin-starred restaurant in France. And I think they exported 300 kilograms or something like that, but they got a very good price. Similarly, I know about a case in Morocco where a producer of very high quality olive oil needs to export something like 8 times less than his competitors to make the same profit, because he sells a very good quality olive oil. So I don't think there is a limit, but it depends also where you're positioned. But I think aggregation is important, because isolated producers will have less capacity. So, and I think this is more or less that was what was mentioned. About honey, I think there are figures for exports to the US. I can give them. Just send me an email, but this is an important product. How to involve SMEs? I think there are many examples. For the moment, I would say working with national organic agriculture movements, and also having some projects supported by development partners. This is what I see, and hopefully with some work, there won't be a need for external support, and the involvement of smallholders will be easier and will come more naturally. Now, about the question about the masses and the price premiums. I don't think that price premiums are absolutely necessary. For the export market, they are. That's important. It's a driver. I think it's good to have that, and to have an increased income for local producers. On the domestic market, I fully agree that quality is the key, and unfortunately, this is not only a problem for organic, but even for conventional. Quality is not necessarily receiving a fair price in Africa. We have many examples where exporters or intermediaries, what they do, they buy every product, like all the products, different qualities at the same price. They do the grading, sorting themselves, they pocket the profits, and that's it. So I think basically the answer was given, how to better market quality, how to sell and get a fair price for quality, because that's what it is about. And another issue, how to find ways to decrease the cost of certification. But I fully agree. That's it for me.
Thank you, Malik. Bo?
Yeah, some remarks on the same question. In terms of quantity, yes, EPOPA was in the beginning very much focused on commodities, yeah? And then you talk about containers. And you better talk about 4 or 6 containers a year, yeah? So that kind of volume. At some time we calculated to set up a proper project, paying enough premium to pay for all the staff and the extra cost and things like that. You should think, in terms of export, of $250,000 turnover. When you have a $250,000 project, you have some money to play with, to have some development, to employ staff, to get certification, etc., etc. But of course, not all projects are immediately on that level, yeah? And certainly for higher quality or higher value products, so not say the stupid commodities, but the higher value products, what can be honey, for example, or essential oils or herbs, you can have a lower volume, although you should think of efficient transport. And so I'm still thinking of container transport, but then you may have to think about group transportation. Yeah? And I think that was actually tried by some national organic movements in East Africa to organize one container, and different exporters could ship in that one container to Europe, for example. You need so the marketing is enormously diverse. Yeah? It is as diverse as nature, you could almost say. Yeah? And I think it is really important to try to get to come to terms with the phenomenon of marketing, the private sector. Yeah? There are, of course, very bad private sector, but there are also open-minded, modern, younger private sector. And it is quite a challenge to find the right marketing outlet for your project. Yeah? But that's why it is good to be open for the market demand, yeah? And to look closely at the buyer who wants the product and see whether you can work with that person or with that company, instead of first generating the product and then say, oh, where's the market? Because then yeah, you have to take whoever offers you a reasonable price. About the premium, for me, it is absolutely not necessary that there is always a premium for organic products. But it really depends on how efficient you organize, say, the project or the value chain. We work also in Sao Tome, which is an island. We work also there with all kinds of flowers, from banana, from cassava, from sweet potato. And I was looking into export markets for it. But then the woman said, no, you're not getting it. I'm selling it already to the schools. Yeah? And so it goes into the school feeding program, and it actually is a substitution for wheat imports, yeah? Because you can mix these flours with wheat and still make a very nice bread. So the country saves foreign exchange, yeah? They have their own market. Yeah? So actually the Minister of Agriculture said, no, this is not for export, this is for our own market. Yeah? And okay, children, school feeding programs, I think is a very nice example for, well, you know, organic also for the masses. Yeah? My main message is, try to organize efficient value chains, yeah? And please get to terms with the market.
Thank you. Madam Barbara?
Yeah, maybe I will say a few words to small and medium enterprises, how they can be integrated best. And I participated yesterday in the session on EU AI, and they also focus now strongly on integration of SMEs in building up business service supports or business support organizations, helping there, and also to apply market system development approaches. And I think that goes into the right direction. So yeah, there is certainly a big need to support that. There is still need to do huge lobbying on governments and policies. And for example, I think that subsidies, I always hear that farmers are not converting because they really lose to have not enough income. And if there's a conversion, or if there's a subsidy also from governments to help farmers in those conversion times, I think that would be very good as one example. So it has to continue.
Thank you. And finally, Martha?
The first question that was on, do we have men? Yes, we do have men. There are not as many as women. We have more of the younger men. Our youth are mainly men. I think you saw one photograph where we have one man. And we will encourage the men to participate, but we will not force them. The other thing is autonomy of the women. The women are pretty autonomous. I mean, I have not seen them have men come to take away their money or have men come to, police on what they're doing. And a number of them do it in families. So it can also be a family initiative, and we have not had issues. At times you're not able to tell what goes on at the household level, but the women are pretty autonomous, at that level. Regarding pricing, I actually concur with what the others have said. We do not have to have a premium. Apparently, from our experience, some of the consumers come and tell us, why are you selling this product so cheaply? And it's like, it's cheap. And should we add the price? They say, outside there in the conventional market, it is more expensive. I'll give you an example. a bottle of 500 grams of honey. You will get it in our market between 400 to 500. In the conventional market, you will probably get it for the same price. The same thing with the vegetables. The thing is, if we can sell bigger volumes with quality, then we can make up even for the challenges that we face. So I concur with my colleagues about pricing. And then there's one person who asked, I think they're from Kisumu, can they join the group? Yes, we are open to the groups, but what we would like to do is to set up satellite groups that are able to be established in those local areas, because we can't have everyone come to Nairobi. But we can work up as partners, and we can help a group to start up in Kisumu, because we have some farmers from Kisumu, because even people in Kisumu and other areas need organic produce. So what I would like to support, or what would like to do, is to help those people who are in the far areas to start up satellite groups that are associated with INOGOV.
Thank you very much, our panelists. And I think the message is clear, that we need to work together to develop sustainable markets for agroecological products. And that there are already working models, marketing models that are working, and we need to upskill them. We also need to tap on the opportunities in the domestic and regional markets. One of the presenters said that there is little inter-Africa trade that is happening. I was reading somewhere that Africa spends $35 billion US per year on food imports. We need to change this, that we grow our food and also do a lot of inter-trade, tapping the opportunities in the domestic and regional market. With that, I want to close this session. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, presenters, for your sharing your good ideas. And with this, we'll break for tea. After tea, you'll get more directions from Sylvia. But let's clap for all of us. Thank you very much.
Can we appreciate Eustace and the team better? I still can't hear you. They've done an excellent job, right? Thank you very, very much for enlightening us. I think that was very, very enlightening. We've learned a lot, and thank you for your time. I wish to now bring some very important announcements. So please pay attention. But before I do that, I want to ask a lady who's been very instrumental in training many, many people in this area. I just want to ask Professor Anjoy from Kenyatta University. I want you to tell us what you're hearing and the main takeaways. You don't even have to come up here. Please give her a mic. Those of you who know Professor Anjoy, you know she has done so much to really build capacity of young people. And what I want you to tell us, from what you have heard so far, are we on the right track? And what are the main takeaways you're hearing from this meeting so far? This is a challenge. I didn't warn her, but you know she's a professor. She can think on her feet.
Oh my God. Sylvia, you threatened that you have done it. Well, like she has said, I'm Professor Wanjohi, and I've been teaching at Kenyatta University for the last 30 years, and 15 years of those have been in administration, doing research, as dean 8 years, chairman, director, center for capacity development, and most of all, making sure that we have the requisite human resource to the extent that I could to serve this country and to serve this nation. And so thank you for the surprise. In this conference, I'm very, very happy that the issue I raised at the beginning after the first plenary has actually been answered. Because I was saying we cannot pull down unless we have something to build. And I'm so happy that there are a number of things that are coming up
that are plugging in the issues that we have been experiencing about synthetic pesticides. And to me, colleagues and Sylvia, that's a very, very important thing. When Martha was speaking, I was touched. Because for me, whatever we do has to trickle down to the end user. Because what they produce finally ends up on our tables.
Yes.
So if we don't support them, we are essentially not supporting ourselves. And the other thing that I'm very, very happy about is that even if the private sector is not so strong here, I want to say that in the African continent and in the Kenyan context, the private sector are starting to appreciate the need of partnering with the knowledge generators, the universities. And I'm very happy in this conference, I have supported 3 students. I wait for them to come.
Good.
And
let's appreciate that.
Why I did, and I would like them to stand up. Where is Jane, Teresia, and Michael?
Good.
Those are 3 of my 7 students who are doing masters. And the program is bioprospecting for biological control agents against various pests and pathogens. And what is also important is that this project, which was funded by a local private firm, Osho Chemical Industries, it gave us, the company gave us $130,000, paying the tuition fee of the 7 students, and we have bioprospected in 13 counties. And we're dealing with some of the most problematic pests, the potato cyst nematode, which, as you're aware of, was reported. We reported together with my student in 2015 for the first time, a very problematic pest. And then we are also working with the crown gall of roses, which is a big, big problem in greenhouse production. And we are also working with the Rastonia, the bacterial wilt, which is also a very big problem in potato and Solanaceous production systems. And we are also working with root knot nematodes, which is a big problem, and we have a student working on thrips on tomatoes. And so these students are here, and I just want to say that I am very, very encouraged that the efforts that we put in our different institutions are starting to pay off, and I think we really headed on the right direction. I wear many hats. I am a member of the Kenya, and a fellow of the Kenya National Academy of Sciences. And in this country, we do offer policy advice to government. And I'm glad that we have a very, very good rapport as the Kenya National Academy of Sciences. I'm actually also a member of the governing council in that Kenya National Academy of Sciences. So you can count on our support as we try to push this agenda. Lastly, I'm happy that we have been able to address all those issues in the value chain, from the input all the way to the market. And that is something that is so commendable, and we have expertise in this room that is able to multiply itself so that we get the requisite impact that we need to create. And like they say, we'll keep singing until they say yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate her. Thank you, Prof. There's no way you could just sit quietly in this room, trust me. Now we want to go to the breakout sessions, and before that, of course, we're going to have tea. But I need you to pay attention because I think there's a bit of a mix-up in the moderator. So I need to clarify who's the moderator for which session. So for session 1, which is where the keynote speaker is going to be Professor Don Huber. The breakout session is going to be in Bougainville, and the moderator is Mr. Daniel Maingi. Okay, is Mr. Daniel Maingi here? I saw him earlier. Maybe he's just outside. So for session 6, which is going to be in Savo, and the main speaker is going to be Christine Zimmerman. Christine, are you here? Christine Zimmerman? Maybe she's just setting up. Her moderator is going to be Miss Anne Miner. I saw Anne in the corridor. Maybe she's out there. Then for breakout session 7, which is going to be in Ivory, the main speaker is going to be Bat-Jean Hortense. I'm sure he's setting up. And the moderator for that session is Dr. David Amudavi. Okay? For the last session, the breakout session on organic guarantee systems and the policy environment in Kenya, the main speaker is Louise Luticold, and the moderator is Professor Charles Sekewa, who I think I saw yesterday, so he must be around. Now, we're going to have tea for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then the session is going to start at 11:30 on the dot, so that you can have 1.5 hours. I also wish to say something that I should have said in the morning or even yesterday. We are streaming live on the WFPC website and on the conference website, and the quality is very good. Yesterday on Facebook, we had 500 people following us the whole day. So more than even the number in this room, which is really great. So I'd like you to send a message to your colleagues, your people who could not make it today. They can actually catch us live on those platforms. Finally, I really wish to encourage you to pass by the exhibition. The exhibitors are complaining that you guys are just having your tea and talking to each other, and you're not talking to them. I want to tell you there's some really innovative things out there. I've just seen one group that is doing some very good biofertilizers. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So please take a minute and stop by and let them tell you about their organizations. So we'll be back here at exactly 2:15. So lunch is going to be served at the usual place. At exactly 2:15, we're going to kick off. And like we did this morning, we're going to kick off even if we have few people in the room. Now we're trying to keep American time. Okay? So please keep time. After your lunch, be back in the room at exactly 2:15. We have another action-packed session. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. See you back here at 2:15.